I'd like to point out that, we're running a grassroots campaign, an anti-corporate campaign. We're not running your typical political campaign. The Democratic Party incumbent that we're running against, Jamie Peterson, he's been sitting up there in the State House, and he's voted for $10.5 billion in budget cuts to public schools, to basic health, and to the disability services. And he's raised 10 times as much money as we have because he's a corporate candidate. His top campaign contributor is Microsoft. We're not running a campaign like him. We don't want to run another politician that votes to cut the budgets of education, healthcare, and disabled services. We're running a candidate who is going to fight all these budget cuts, who's going to stand up to the other politicians, the Democrats and the Republicans that are pushing these things. We're not taking money from corporations, so we're free to speak freely. Jamie Peterson, he may have won 90%, or in this tentative result. The final result will be here on August 21st, but so far he's got a lot of money. He's got the whole Democratic Party machine. He may have more votes. He may have almost 10 times more money than we have, but we're running a principled campaign that's actually fighting for the 99% of the population that is shut out of the political system. And so I'm pretty happy myself with this result. I hope you guys are too. I think it's a good start for our first candidate that we've run as Socialist Alternative. And yeah, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'll pass it off to our first speaker.
Why should we run a candidate who, when Jamie Peterson just got 90% of the vote in this election, what is the point? Why is it a victory that we got in the initial results, 8.5%? Well, I think the question has to be reversed. Why in the world would ordinary people, would working people, young people, middle-class people want to continue supporting Jamie Peterson and the Democratic Party and the capitalist policies that they represent? If you look at every poll, the vast majority of people in this country are outraged. There's massive discontent. The socialist movement is more popular in the United States than Congress. The only institution maybe that's more hated than Congress is the banks, so they're giving them a good run for their money. And health insurance companies. Those are the most hated institutions in U.S. society. So we have this perverse situation where there's a boiling anger, there's huge discontent. Look at the 2012 presidential elections. Where's the enthusiasm for Obama and Romney? Remember, we should think back 4 years ago. The massive onslaught of excitement and energy. Millions of people actively got involved in the Obama campaign. They were volunteering. People were saying it was a new grassroots mass movement. Millions gave small contributions, were putting their time and effort in it, and they really believed that Barack Obama's promise that he was going to bring hope and change that we can believe in. And 4 years later, what has happened? Where is the change? We still have Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah.
We still have U.S. troops in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Do we have single-payer universal health care?
No.
Did the banks get bailed out?
Yeah.
Did working people get bailed out?
No.
Is the home foreclosure crisis being addressed?
No.
Under Obama's watch, the foreclosure crisis has grown. More people are being kicked out of their homes than it was when he took power. Deportations are going up. Barack Obama, you say there's no way the Republicans could be, that Obama couldn't be worse than the Republicans. Well, look at deportations. Undocumented immigrants in record numbers are being rounded up and thrown out of the country. And what does that mean? This is, for politicians to talk about a family values agenda, that means tearing apart families. That means parents being deported with their children who are American citizens living in the United States, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, being left as orphans. It means people who've grown up, they were brought by their parents when they were 6 months old to the United States and not a legal citizen. They've spent their whole life in the United States, they only speak English. They're being deported to Panama and Nicaragua and El Salvador, where they're completely stranded. That's the brutal policies that Barack Obama has carried out. Much less, we've seen a continual assault on the labor movement. He promised to raise the minimum wage. That hasn't happened. Now it's an election year, there's more talk about that. Of course, in this year there'll be some crumbs thrown. But it's after, he'll kick working people and the poor for 3 years, and then when it's time to get the votes out, he'll throw a few crumbs and have happy talk. But we have to learn, it's high time we wake up to that scam. And I think the Occupy movement that we saw last fall is really the spirit and the motivation behind this campaign. Occupy brought to the surface. It didn't invent it, it didn't create it, but it actually articulated it and gave it an expression, the enormous discontent and outrage that's building up by the blatant, it's just shameless ripoff and looting of the country that Wall Street and the big banks have done. The new news, which hasn't yet hit the U.S. hard yet, but it will in the next few weeks and months, is all the major banks around the world have been manipulating in the greatest financial crime in human history, what's called the LIBOR rate, which is not worth getting into the details, but it's the main benchmark that all interest rates around the world are set. Between $300 and $800 trillion of financial assets are tied to LIBOR. Manipulations of that mean that it's going to have massive consequences. It's cost people hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. And they were manipulating it, and they've accepted it. They pled guilty. They've manipulated it. There's a clear paper trail, there's no doubt about it, for their own profits. They're complete liars. If I went into the next store and robbed that store for a $20 item, what would be my jail sentence? It would be pretty severe, particularly if I was a person of color. If a bank goes in and says we're going to rip off trillions of dollars from people by lying and having a conspiracy to fudge the numbers, they get a slap on the wrist. Who's going to jail? So it's in response to that kind of shameless actions of the banks that Occupy arose, of people saying we've had enough. That it's clear, the 1%, the big banks, they own this system, they control the economy, and they own the political system. And the point of our campaign is to ask, if the banks, if big business, if the 1% has two parties, they own, I mean, let's not fool around. They own the Democrats and Republicans. The Republicans are a little more crude and stupid. The Democrats are a little more clever and know how to give happy talk and make people feel good when they carry out their big business policies. But fundamentally, they're both servants of their corporate masters. And the question is, if we're living in a democracy, why should working people, should the 99% have zero representation, yet the 1% has 100% representation? And it's not just nationally, here in Washington State. Olympia is corporate occupied territory. It is owned 125% by Boeing, by Microsoft, by Amazon, by Starbucks. Working people, ordinary people have no voice in Olympia. Look at the tax structure. You pay more taxes each year as a percentage of your income than Bill Gates or Paul Allen. Boeing doesn't even pay taxes. The state government that they bought gives them money every year. So whose interests are they working for? So the premise of our campaign is the very modest idea. I think there's 98 members of the state legislature. Big business can have 97. We think we have a humble demand that working people and the left should have one voice in Olympia. And in this district, the 43rd district, the most left-wing district in Washington state, that Frank Chop and Jamie Peterson, right-wing Democrats, are way out of line. They do not represent this district. They voted for the cuts to basic health. They voted for the $1.2 trillion in cuts to higher education, which has led to at least a doubling of tuition over the past 4 years. They voted $2.7 trillion in cuts to public education. They're decimating public transit. Services being cut. Fares are going up. And yet, there's no taxes being brought down to bear on the big corporations. Everyone in this district, the vast majority, would agree with those positions. They're way out of line. So we have a unique historical opportunity in this election to actually strike a blow, to shake things up, and actually give a voice to actually what people want in this district. And that requires though breaking that stranglehold that the Democratic Party has. And while our results tonight are modest, they are a tremendous foundation to begin building on. We were laughed at, we were dismissed. We ran this campaign on hardly any resources. We were blocked by the corporate media. We were blocked by the Seattle Times, by the news, radio stations, the TV. Jamie Peterson, the last point I'll make, and Frank Chop are completely out of touch. They spent no effort campaigning. They think they're a royal aristocracy. They have the right to own their seats, and they don't need to campaign and earn their votes. And this message, they might still be arrogant and think, there's nothing we have to fear. But this message is the warning bells of a revolt that's going to hit Seattle and U.S. society in the next period and drive them from their luxury apartments. Thank you.
So please join me in welcoming our wonderful candidate, Kshama Sawant.
By saying that for somebody who just wants to be a humble, ordinary Marxist activist, all this attention is quite overwhelming. But I am determined to use that for the working class. And I want to say that this victory that we've had today is a clear reflection of, as Khalil was saying, the changing times, the outrage that is being felt all over the world is now finding new expression in this new era. So we've had the Arab Spring, the Egyptian Revolution, the uprising of the public sector in Wisconsin, the Occupy movement all over the country. I mean, when Occupy first started, I was listening to news and I remember hearing that Occupy movements, the 10 cities or whatever occupations have started in 900 different cities in the United States. And I remember thinking, holy shit, I can't even name 100 cities in the United States offhand. So despite the smallness, despite all the challenges that a new movement inevitably has, I think Occupy has given the rallying cry for the sleeping giant of the American working class to wake up. Wake up to this massive global injustice that we see under capitalism. Wake up to the blatant bailouts, the blatant subsidies that corporations get, and while ordinary people are being told that, oh, we don't have any money to fund your schools, we don't have any money for you to go to college, we don't have any money to create jobs, we don't have any money to make sure the elderly, the children, the disabled are taken care of. And now we're saying that no, we reject that dystopian vision of human society. The human society should not be that way, and we know that we are capable of creating an alternate society for ourselves. And I think this campaign is a small but extremely decisive step in that direction, and I think we should all congratulate ourselves. So give yourselves another hand. I wanted to also thank everyone for being here. Your support is very greatly appreciated, not just in general, but because this is a grassroots campaign. This is a campaign of ordinary working people, of students, of teachers, and of just regular people who are sick and tired of business as usual. And your presence here means a lot to all of us. And I can hardly proceed before giving a big shout out to all those of you who have poured your time and dedication into running this campaign so far. It could hardly have been possible without the hours and hours of effort that everybody put in. And let me tell you, we have the best damn campaign team. And I think people need to look at our campaign seriously, because this is the only election campaign, electoral campaign that offers a vision of what we want society to look like. It's a democratically run campaign. Every decision is made democratically. This campaign is not in the service of one person's lucrative political career. We are here for genuine change, and this campaign is an electoral campaign, but it is an activist, a socialist campaign. And I think we have given the Democratic Party something to think about tonight. And it's been an interesting ride so far. I mean, we have a long way to go, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But as activists, as Marxists, we are used to running on a shoestring budget. We are used to never having enough money to do what we need to do. We're used to making enormous personal sacrifices. But this campaign has been on a new level. I mean, I think it really gave new meaning to the word shoestring budget. I mean, we really have accomplished an amazing amount with very limited financial resources. And that success is a testament, first of all, as I said, to having a really dedicated and phenomenal campaign team and organization. But it's also a reflection of the changes in society. I think we're running this campaign at the right time because people are starting to ask questions. People are completely fed up with the way things are, and they want alternatives. And the problem has been that there haven't been any alternatives. Most people we talk about say that, what's the point of voting? I don't even want to have anything to do with elections. People have told us, oh, I'm not a voter. I mean, people are starting to identify as being a non-voter. And we as Marxists, we understand that the electoral process is completely rigged in favor of the 1% of big business. We have no illusions about that. Neither do we have illusions that we can make any kind of fundamental change just by winning one seat or running this campaign. But what we do know is that we have to reach out to the millions, and not just millions, but the hundreds of millions of people who are out there who we know are angry about the system, are looking for a change, but don't know how to get it, don't know where to go. And so our presence at our table, all the hard work that we did over the hot weekend, last weekend, that's absolutely necessary work. That is far more important than any speech a candidate makes. And so I think we need to keep up with that work in order to keep reaching out. I mean, when we first started, formulating the idea of this campaign, a lot of people outside Socialist Alternative told us, why do you have to call yourself socialist? I mean, can't you just run this campaign by saying that, you are for all these changes, but don't really say what you are? And I think this result confirms our perspectives that no, people are actually hungry to hear about alternatives to capitalism. I mean, in reality, if you look at the numbers, socialist ideas have a greater approval rating than U.S. Congress. I mean, what are we shy about? Let's go out there and raise the rallying cry of socialism. And I don't want to go on for too long, but I do want to say that while I have all of you here, that we have had a huge victory, but that also means that we don't get time off until November. So please keep that in mind and take this victory as as seriously as we should be doing, which is that we should be now going off aggressively, tabling, leafleting, door knocking, and last but not least, let's challenge Jamie Peterson to a public debate. Let's get him on the floor and ask him tough questions. And this is a grassroots people power campaign. So we not only need the financial contributions of ordinary working people around us, but we need people to get involved. So I am making a personal and sincere appeal to all of you here that if each of you was to bring one more person to stop standing on the sidelines but become actually involved in this campaign, we could make an enormous difference. So, as you go away tonight, go to your homes, please remember that, next week when we have, or next time we have a campaign volunteers meeting, please bring one more person. This is a grassroots campaign, meaning we need the grassroots to be involved. It's a people power campaign, meaning we need people to be involved. There are lots of people out there who are standing there waiting for change to happen. It's our job to go and tell them, change is not going to come up because some rich guy is going to wake up and think that, oh, I should do something nice. Change is going to happen if we demand it, meaning we have to put feet on the streets. We have to give up our time and we have to be dedicated in order to run a campaign like this. And I want to say that this campaign is just a starting point. It's not about winning or losing this particular campaign, although winning would be great, but the point is that we have to keep going. We have to run many more candidates. The left has to run candidates that will challenge the Democratic Party up and down the length of the state. And we need to reach out to young people, students, the elderly, people in the community, and above all, we need to reach out to the labor movement. And it's a reflection of their frustration with the Democratic Party. That's what the rest of the labor movement needs to do. They need to break away from them and join grassroots campaigns. And let's keep going. Let's keep our work going hard. And we need to actually, I know we've worked really hard, but we need to work harder until November. And I hope to see you all there.
So I just want to start off by reminding everybody, when we started this campaign back in April, we had to gather all these signatures to file, and we set a target of 1,000 signatures, and we got 1,052 signatures. So we started off on a really strong start. That's awkward. So I want to remind everybody that we started off on a strong start, and it looks like we're ending on a strong note. So on with some of the figures to really see what was our impact. Because again, we don't want to just focus on the vote. We want to know, what were the one-on-one conversations that we have with the community? How many people did we talk to? How did we get this vote, right? So what was the hard work, and how do we measure that? 200 people signed up to learn more about Socialist Alternative and about the Vote Sawant campaign. We talked to over 30 different people and had one-on-one conversations with them about socialism, about Socialist Alternative, and about the campaign. Eight new people have joined the struggle for a socialist transformation in society. We handed out over 6,000 leaflets that had our platform on there to talk about our ideas. We sold over 600 papers, which again will let more people know about our ideas. Again, this campaign is about raising the profile of Socialist Alternative and seeking deeper roots in the community, letting them know that there's an alternative to the capitalist solutions, the false solutions put forward by the capitalist parties. We've raised over $9,000 so far. And last but not least, I just want to point out, if people have not noticed, that we initially wanted to run against Frank Chop. He's the Speaker of the House. He's the most important Democrat in the state besides the governor. And people don't like him as much as Jamie Peterson, although I'm not sure why, because they have identical voting records almost. Frank Chop is the Speaker of the House. So he's initiated these $10.5 billion cuts to social services. It would have been a better campaign to run against him, but we didn't necessarily want to split the independent vote. Gregory Gatto was an independent candidate calling for a stop to the budget cuts. So we moved to position 1. But recently, the stranger endorsed us as a write-in candidate for position 2. And if everybody looks at the screen over there, the write-in, which we can't say it's all for us, but I think with some confidence we can say the majority of that is for us, got more votes as a write-in candidate for position 2 than Gregory Gatto did, who was on the ballot, and that's something we should be proud of. And that's... to have a write-in candidate beat somebody that's actually on the ballot. And this could put us in a unique position to be able to choose between position 1 or position 2. Evil Democrat 1 or evil Democrat 2 that we get to run against. So it puts us in a good position, and I think we should all pat ourselves on the back for the hard work we did. But, we'll have a good time tonight and celebrate this victory, but I want to echo what Kshama said. The struggle is not over. We have to keep up the fight. We have to keep, getting out there and having conversations with people because they're hungry for an alternative.
Thank you, Jess. Just a few other people we should thank is a number of endorsers. We mentioned the Amalgamated Transit Union. We have actually here tonight a few bus drivers who helped make that endorsement possible. Even though the president of the union local did not want to endorse us, it was the rank and file members of the union, the bus drivers, who pushed it through. So we should thank them for that. We also want to thank Radical Women and Freedom Socialist Party. There's Andrea is here tonight representing them. Let's thank them. They've been very helpful and supportive and helped us get the endorsement of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local. Eat the State is a progressive newspaper. They have a newspaper in a lot of the coffee shops around town. They endorse. We should thank them. The Stranger has already recommended a write-in, as was mentioned. And we don't know, by the way, for sure if all of those are for us. And we have to wait until August 21st to get the final results to see if we actually did beat Frank Chop or not. But we should definitely thank The Stranger for promoting that idea, because there's a chance that we beat them. And then we should thank Reverend Rich Lane, who's endorsed and has written an article of Real Change. The Joe Show in Bellingham had an article. Yeah, let's thank all of them. Organized Workers for Labor Solidarity is another endorser. And I also just want to thank everyone who's financially contributed, as well as all the time that people put in. So,